Well, it is finally here. The Performance Model 3 is officially launched on Tesla's website, available to order, and deliveries can start as soon as May. Now, this refresh Model 3 Performance has been missing for some time, and nobody knows exactly why that is, but it doesn't matter because it is here now. We have the details and all the questions we had about performance, price, will it be tax credit eligible? All of that is now right here for us to take a look. So let's jump over to Tesla's website because it is definitely a step up from the previous Performance Model 3. All right, so as you can see here, we have our first look at the official refresh Model 3 Performance. And just taking a look at this initial picture here, we can see a new front fascia that is a little bit different than what we have on the rear-wheel drive and the long-range all-wheel drive. So we've got a little bit more of an aggressive front end, some new wheels, and then the rest of it follows that new refresh design that we have seen in the other models. But as we start to look through this, here's where the details get juicy. 510 horsepower, 2.9 second 0 to 60 compared to the 3.1 on the outgoing, and 163 mile per hour top speed. And taking a look at this new suspension setup, we have a brand new adaptive suspension that's going to give you more control of the car than ever before. It's going to give you the ability to enhance all the performance characteristics of the car on a track, but also change things up to be more comfortable on your day-to-day drive, so you're not just stuck with a more harsh performance-driven suspension. We also have new version 3 track mode here, and you're going to have the ability to do a lot to this car right here on the screen. As you can see here, you can calibrate the adaptive suspension, chassis, powertrain controls, all this stuff right here on the screen, giving you ultimate control of how this car performs. Of course, it does have the aerodynamic upgrades that we saw on the refresh Model 3 for rear-wheel drive long range, but a little bit different, and it's hard to tell in some of these pictures, but we'll get into that later. These new forged wheels do have what appears to be aero covers, so you can take these off for a more sleek look, or when you're on the road, you can put these on and get a little bit better performance on the highway. We can see our upgraded brakes and of course the whole chassis right here. So nothing unexpected here, although we do have a much better performing chassis overall. Suspension, chassis stiffness, a lot of customization, all at your fingertips. And then on the interior, of course, we saw some sneak peeks of these seats, and I love that they have the ludicrous logo here built in to the bolsters, which is pretty cool. And the front dash, all the same, except for this is now carbon fiber instead of that kind of fabric material that we see in the other trims of the Model 3. Interior as a whole looks about the same except for those seats, and so you already know what to expect essentially if you've seen the refresh. We have the same front and rear screen that we saw, that 8-inch screen in the back, and then our new sound system, 17 speakers with dual woofers and dual amplifiers. So it's going to be putting out some crazy sound. And if you're into all of the audio enhancements, this is going to be pretty awesome. Pretty much what you would expect from safety perspective, the way that the entire chassis is put together, the car itself is made for top level safety. So looking at these stats as a whole, 296 miles of range, 2.9 seconds 0 to 60, and of course, all fitted with the performance all-wheel drive, 4,054 pounds, and the rest of these dimensions are about the same. We do have that same 250 kilowatt max charge rate, and it is calling 142 miles of range added in about 15 minutes. So with that, just for point of reference, we were at 175 miles in 15 minutes. The Model S still the best at 200, and then the Model Y somewhere around 160 miles in 15 minutes. So slightly worse, but if we move this over to, say, the long-range all-wheel drive, it's 175 miles in 15 minutes, as I had said. So over here on the order sheet, going over to cash price, these two prices are still the same for rear-wheel drive, long-range all-wheel drive, and now the performance, $52,990. So right in with what we were hoping to see this thing land at. 296 miles of range, 163 miles per hour top speed, 2.9 seconds 0 to 60. And we can see some of the more detailed upgrades that this comes with. 500 horsepower, actually 510 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds. So under 3 seconds, which is awesome. the new front and rear bumper, adaptive suspension, track mode V3 as we talked about, sports seats that are cooled, performance chassis, these forged wheels, high performance brakes, of course, and carbon fiber inlays. Now looking down here, the pricing is going to be important because you have just enough room in this price to add about $2,000 in options. The reason is because it is indeed tax credit eligible, which is fantastic. I would be very surprised if this did not come back as tax credit eligible because the batteries are built in Reno and that didn't seem that it was going to change. But what that means is because of the pricing on the upgrade for black and white interior at $1,500, which is interesting, they are not going to qualify for a color and interior. You can only get a exterior color or interior color and still be under that $55,000 threshold. So you'll need to choose wisely on if you want white interior with a stealth gray or if you want a different color exterior, and that's more important to you. Can't do both, unfortunately, at this time. Of course, we have our updated $8,000 full self-driving price and then the ability to add some basic accessories. But delivery time frame May to June of 2024. So this thing is ready to be delivered here now, essentially. Now, this is where things are kind of interesting because the way this pricing works out, actually, it's not as straightforward as it looks, and that is because of the tax credit. Of course, $38,990 for rear-wheel drive, $47,740 for long-range all-wheel drive, and $52,990 for performance. However, as long as you don't exceed income caps and you transfer this credit to the dealer, everybody will qualify for the $7,500 tax credit that this vehicle qualifies for. What that means is the $7,500 tax credit brings the Performance Model 3 down to $45,490. That's over $2,000 less than the long-range all-wheel drive. Looking at that even bigger, it's a $6,500 jump from the rear-wheel drive Model 3, which is a significant jump in vehicle for $6,500. So this is where things are going to get really interesting for the Model 3 lineup because of this tax credit eligibility. Since the rear-wheel drive and long-range all-wheel drive do not qualify, this Performance Model 3 is going to be obviously very popular for Model 3 shoppers. But what does this mean long-term? And this is where I continue to say the reason Juniper is probably delayed, or the refresh Model Y, is because of tax credit eligibility in the Model 3. Why would you buy a Model 3 if you could buy the same version of this refresh in a Model Y for less money? So with this release, with the tax credit eligibility, this really makes things very challenging for Tesla. And I think that we're going to see more action on the rear-wheel drive and the long-range all-wheel drive on being tax credit eligible because the economies just don't make sense right now. And I don't know what their planned output is on the Performance Model 3, but I would assume it's going to be more popular than the long range. And certainly it's going to eat into some of the rear-wheel drive sales as well, because this is an incredible value for that kind of performance. You're not going to be able to touch that anywhere near that price range, which is what's amazing about that. So it's available to order right now on Tesla's website. This is so exciting because we've been waiting for so long for this thing to come back. And what are the numbers going to be? I think I assumed it was going to be just a little bit faster, but it makes total sense that it's just under 3 seconds, 0 to 60 for marketing purposes. Makes total sense. And then that tax credit eligibility, maintaining the same batteries that they had from Reno, and having that eligible for the tax credit makes total sense. However, what does that mean for the rest of the Model 3 lineup? That is yet to be determined, and I'm sure we will find out soon enough. So there you have it. That's the update for today. Model 3 performance is back, and it is back with an impact. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I can't wait to catch you on the next one.